a
In
groundbreaking
case you
dream
missed
for
it,
Africa.
this was part
Gaddafi's
of
objective of
Obama's
this new currency
legacy.
was to divert oil revenues towards the state-controlled funds rather than American banks. In other words, it was aimed at stopping the use of the dollar for oil transactions in African countries, most especially Nigeria, Tunisia, Egypt, and Angola. In fact, these countries were ready to change their currencies as soon as the golden dinar was launched. Unfortunately, in March 2011, NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization coalition forces, began a military action in Libya in the name of freedom and humanitarian concerns. Unfortunately, many ignorant Libyans listened and believed the Western media instead of backing their leader. Gaddafi succeeded to rule Libya for over 42 years because he managed to gain support of many Libyan tribes by providing them with free water, almost free gasoline, free health system, as well as cheap and affordable education. Gaddafi's death marked the end of an African dream. Muhammad Gaddafi wanted to stay away from American influence in his oil transactions by using the golden dinar. He launched a project for this currency, and other African nations were ready to give him massive support. This was an African dream, but at the same time, it was going to be a nightmare for Western banking, which greatly benefits the USA and most European countries. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization's forces were involved in Gaddafi's capture, while the Libyan military were also on the ground to enhance defense. The NATO forces opened fire in a pipeline hideout where Gaddafi was seeking refuge, wounding him on the leg and back. According to one of the unnamed National Transitional Council fighters, one of Gaddafi's own loyalists also shot him, apparently to spare him from being captured. Few minutes later, as the fighting continued, Muammar Gaddafi was killed. Several videos related to his death were shown on television and circulated on the internet. The leader was killed alongside his son, Mu'tasim Gaddafi, and they were buried a few days after their assassination. Let's look at other reasons that led to the killing of Muammar Gaddafi. Besides all what you have watched about why Muammar Gaddafi was killed, there are also points from credible media sources that facilitated this process. As a strong and very dynamic leader, loved by the people of Libya, there were some things Gaddafi did for the people, which were not pleasing in the eyes of his opponents. 1. In Libya, there was no payment for electricity during Gaddafi's reign. Electricity was free for all citizens. Fuel, education, and healthcare were almost free, or close to nothing for most Libyans to afford. 2. With an excellent management of oil revenues, the Libyan state had managed to store hundreds of tons of about 143 tons of gold, according to WikiLeaks, and the same amount of silver. All these resources were going to make Libya the most influential country in Africa, supplanting France, for instance. 3. There were no interest on loans in Libyan banks and state-owned financial enterprises. Loans were given at 0% interest rate by law. 4. Living in a house was a must-have issue for all Libyans. Gaddafi even vowed that his parents would not get a house until everyone in Libya had one. In fact, having a house in Libya was considered a human right. 5. All newly wedded couples in Libya received money from the government to build their new apartments. 6. Necessities were given out freely or at very affordable prices to Libyans to better their lives amongst others. All these were seen as provocative and dictatorial to those who were not in support of Gaddafi's projects, which at the end culminated to some fighting and subsequent killing of the revolutionary leader of Libya. All these other reasons why Gaddafi was killed are gotten from the Muslim Times media source. Gaddafi even carried out the world's largest irrigation project in Libya, the Great Man-Made River. This project utilized giant pipes to send fresh water from the Nubian sandstone aquifer system Fossil Aquifer across Libya, and it was fully funded by the Libyan government. No loans from the IMF or China. Unfortunately, NATO forces intentionally and under strict orders destroyed this irrigation system, and even went further to destroy the factory where the pipes for this project were manufactured. This was a project that was aimed at helping Libyans, so why destroy it if your goal is to free the same Libyans? That is how you saw it on this video titled, The Real Reason Why Gaddafi Was Killed. We hope you now have ample facts to back your doubts after watching. For a quick summary, although Muammar Gaddafi had his own personal shortcomings, what is widely known about him by people in Libya and Africa was that he was at the verge of getting Africa out of external control, as you have just watched. Many sources gave different ideas about the real reason why Gaddafi was killed, which normally were based on what they perceived about the whole situation of establishing a new currency in Africa. Several biographers and observers characterized Gaddafi as a populist. He was well known for appearing on screens severally to answer questions that people asked him. As a highly esteemed figure, Gaddafi dominated Libyan politics for 4 decades and was a subject of a pervasive cult of personalities. He was decorated with several awards and praised for his anti-imperialist stance, support for Arab and then African unity, as well as significant for the development of Libya. Gaddafi transformed Libya into a new socialist state in 1977. He officially adopted a symbolic role in governance, but remained head of both the military and the revolutionary committees responsible for policing and suppressing dissent. We have seen the assassinations of many African leaders who had the mission of freeing their people from Western influence or uniting Africa. Look at the likes of Patrice Lumumba of Congo, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa of Nigeria, and Thomas Sankara, amongst others. History is just repeating itself, only the actors are changing. Africans must avoid external influence and work with their leaders to foster development in their countries. If this video was an interesting one to you, then please give it a like. Do you think that Libyans made a very big mistake to stand against Gaddafi when he needed them the most? Which African leader now can be bold enough to do what Gaddafi was doing for Africa? Did Gaddafi's African gold dinar dream die with him? These are questions that our African leaders need to answer. Thanks for watching, and see you